Guys, it's me. I'm back.
What's up, party people?
We're like, Mads, come on. All right, this show is taking a turn for the.
See, this is the part where I'm usually quiet, right? And Rick does the talking. But Rick is out of town. He is officiating a surprise wedding. A bunch of friends of his in Vancouver. They've been, well, two of his friends have been dating for quite a long time. And this is like under the guise of one of their 50th birthdays, where they're having everyone come out to Vancouver to celebrate this dude's 50th. And then Rick is going to say surprise and actually marry them after they've been dating, I want to say, for about 20 years.
Whoa.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions. They don't have kids. I don't know why now is the right time, but maybe we could talk to Rick about that when we get back. In the meanwhile, I am not flying solo. I have our good friend, Mr. Wishiwazfishin, Chris Hollingsworth, in the waiting room, and I was actually kind of excited to have a day in the office without Rick. I was going to talk about how amazing my day was, but I've had a little bit of a day today, and it turns out I miss him just a little bit, which is really a weird place for me to be. But in any case, welcome to Monster Bass Live. We have a great show for you. When Chris comes on, he's going to explain to me who our guest is, because our guest, his name is Nick Hatfield, and he's been fishing for a long time, and he's been winning for a long time, and he just crushed an event on the Potomac, yet somehow he's a rookie, and somehow he was an amateur, and somehow he's the new guy, and I don't know how it all ties together. We're going to figure that one out. But before we do, Fixie, can we load up on that trophy room? As everybody knows, or as only the listeners know, because we pound it into your head each and every week, we are heck bent on helping you guys and our subscribers catch their personal best. And here are the PBs of the week. We have Tip Fay, and I hope I'm not murdering your name, out of Massachusetts, with 4-pound, 13-ounce monster that he caught on a finesse jig. Guy's been a member since 2021. Thank you. Perfect last name for somebody catching a massive one. Andy Champion. I feel like, I don't know, if I got into professional angling, I would change my name to Andy Champion, out of North Carolina, with a 3-pound, 7-ouncer caught on a worm. Member of Monster Bass since 2023. Matt Macho Man Miller.
Look at that. Come on now. I'm sorry. I'm not in the show yet, but that's incredible. I'm just going to say that right there.
I don't know which I like better. The fish, the gloves, sweatshirt, sunglasses, like everything about this picture.
He matched his glasses to his undershirt. And it's a smallie that's a monster. So anyway, just keep going. That's incredible.
I feel like this guy, I feel like he needs to be our next ad. Like, just throw this guy on paid social and watch what happens, because it's absolutely amazing. So Matt Miller, I hope you're listening. I'm going to reach out to you offline, because I want to use this image in our ad campaign, because everything about this works. 5 pounds, 11 ounces, out of Illinois. Oh, I'm going to Illinois tomorrow. I just realized that that's where Chicago is. Caught it on a Ned rig. And Matt Macho Man Miller, thank you for being a member of Monster Bass since 2023. Next up is Alex Wilson, 5 pounds, 1 ounce, out of OHIO. Caught this monster on a swim bait, member since 2023. I mean, it's a good picture, but Fix, could you go back to Matt Miller? Can we go back? Yeah. I mean, Alex has a good picture, but it's not Matt Miller good. I'm sorry. Guys, I just want to let everyone know we will celebrate your PBs, but this is the bar. this is the type of picture we expect when we send out that call to action. And last and maybe least, because he's backlit and he looks like he's in the witness protection program. David Weingard, 4 pounds, 1 ounce, out of California. Chris, does that look like the Delta to you? Caught it on a crankbait. Member since 2023. Fix has. Fix has
no, he unmuted me. No, I'd say no Delta, but I'm telling you, that's all glossy. That's a nice shot too. And he's got his scale right there to prove that he's weighing that thing. Good job on the photo.
The Vaseline smeared on the lens reminds me of my Penthouse days. It's a nice little centerfold there. All right, Fix, why don't you help me off of this train wreck, bring Chris on, and let's talk Macho Man Miller for a second, Matt Miller. Sure, Fix, bring that picture back up again. Can you?
I'm telling you, this guy, so many people are going to be using this for their Tinder profile, like just all across the nation right now. I'm going Monster Bass July campaign with those gloves. He set the bar high for what you need to send. I mean, pull that fish, not the fact that it's a Ned rig monster, but a 5'11" smallie, no joke.
Yeah.
And he's just so happy. So good on him. Way to go. Set the tone for the whole show. So I'm pretty excited.
I gotta tell you, you're not kidding about the Tinder profile. It's like the days of posing with tigers are over.
No, that's that guy. He's gonna have some people haunting him, and he's gonna have some dates for sure. So good job, my friend. And yeah, this is gonna be a good show. I know you mentioned our guest. The guy is on fire. He's crushing it. I need to have him explain it to the world because I think I have a pretty good idea. But I think like rookie of the year in 2022, if I'm gonna mess all this up, I'm sure was killing it. Won on the Potomac, I think 9 months ago, but he's got his debut. I think it's Major League Fishing. That's the rookie season. He's got on our Bass Pro Tour. So we've got a serious angler for sure. I can't wait. I think he's here. He slid in at the nick of time, and I'm just going to give his wife some credit. She kicked things off right in the green room to make sure the Wi-Fi and everything was connected, but he was out fishing. So I think,
there's a 30% chance. There's a 30% chance we put him on screen, and Isabella's sitting there.
I don't know, maybe he didn't turn the truck off or whatever, but I know he was like coming home from fishing, wind was blowing. But I wanted some fish details because I didn't even get to say hi because he just made it in time, doing what he's supposed to be doing. He's out working.
Apologize for doing his job. Sorry, I'm late. I was destroying fish.
I was fishing. So no, super excited today to get some insight. And then the topic we want to keep falling back to, and hopefully somebody keeps track of us, because I love to hear what the pros are doing off season, all these different questions I have. But today's all about soft plastics. And the reason the soft plastic discussion, I think it's several pieces, but soft plastics instrumental in a lot of his events that he's fishing in. Soft plastics, I always hear them, they get the bum rap sometimes, like, oh, there's cooler ways to catch fish, whatever. I'm a huge advocate about soft plastics. Love a wacky worm. I fish at a Neko rig and just do some serious damage with the Neko rig myself. And I want to hear, like, I think I want to set that up of like, why did that become not cool? Why do some people say like, oh, I don't ever fish with a wacky worm or whatever? And I know Nick has some secrets. He actually fished, I think I saw it, a wacky worm with a trailer hook. So we'll get into that later. But
it's going to be our good friend Matt Miller. I mean, he caught a fish. Yeah, he caught that smallie on a Ned rig, right?
Ned rig's
no expert angler, but Ned rigs are soft plastics, right? And there's no cooler way to catch a fish than Matt Miller just did. I'm sorry.
Crushed it. No, it's gonna be fun. So I'd say, excited about today's show for sure. I know we got people in the chat. People can call in asking Nick, what kind of option, like what an opportunity to talk to, the best anglers in the world. We got him here on Monster Bass Live today. It's gonna be fun.
This is where you bring him in, Fixie.
Oh yeah, you want to bring him
in? Yeah. It was perfect.
Yeah.
There he is.
What's up, Nick? So welcome. I just wanted to say I asked you the question. I said, how is fishing? And then you started to answer. You said the wind. So let's pretend that never happened. And you just pulled in from the truck, said hi to the labs, and your wife was there. You got us all prepped. How was fishing today? Tell us about it.
Man, it was good. It was, we caught several. We didn't catch any real big ones, but Hunter, the guy that we're staying with here in Kentucky, he went out with me, and we caught probably, I don't know, a dozen or 15, and had a good time. So
Nice, nice. Well, I think what we got to do is we got to set this all straight, because I know you've had a fishing career, you've been fishing for some years, and I always like to give the platform for you to kind of set it straight. Of, I guess, first question is when did you start fishing, and then we'll get into the understanding for Rafi. I think about the whole major league fishing, bass professional. But first, right off the bat, like, what got you into fishing? When did this all start?
yeah, so my dad had me in a boat, ever since I was like 5 years old or maybe even younger. And I fished a lot of club stuff with him growing up, through school and stuff. And I got into golf really heavy, middle school and high school, played a lot of golf. But when I turned 16 and he got me my first truck, he actually bought an old boat off of a buddy of his just to rob the newer motor off of it to put on his boat. And when he did that, he took the older motor off of his boat and put it on the old little Ranger that he bought. And he was trying to sell it, and he couldn't sell it. I mean, like 3 months went by and he couldn't sell it. And I'd stayed on him and on him. I was like, "You really need to let me keep this boat." Uh, and
Yeah.
finally, he gave in. And from then on, I think that's kind of the turning point for me, was not just going fishing with Dad, which I still fish with him and I cherish that. But I think from a learning standpoint and really getting involved with the tournament scene, when I got that boat at age 16, it just kind of took off. I burnt the wheels off of that thing,
That's
and
awesome.
fishing with other friends and fishing by myself. That's kind of really when I started taking off with it.
I could imagine. When I was 16, I convinced my mom to get rid of her 1977 booger green Volvo station wagon, and I burnt the wheels off of that thing. But I could not imagine at 16 getting a boat. I would have caused so much chaos. I think that's pretty awesome.
I'm super blessed in that part. I mean, it's not like it was a 15 Ranger 521. This was like a 1980 model Ranger 364V, and there's nothing wrong with it. I love that boat, and I caught a lot of fish out of it. So it wasn't like I was just getting some, big fancy. It was awesome to me, and uh, I'll always remember those days, and
That's awesome.
for
No, I had a son, actually. He was away on a mission, and he got word that we had this little aluminum 12-foot dinghy, and all he wanted to do was come home and grab that electric motor and just be a captain and cruise and go and fish. And I think there's just something magical about being on the water, and it's kind of addicting and it's fun. I don't think the age matters, but 16, the world's in front of you. You're your own literal captain out there catching fish. So I think that kind of explains it. You're out there, you're fishing. When did you first realize, I mean, going back to golf, I mean, you're playing some golf, you're probably walking around the greens that are next to the water, eyeing fish. When did you realize you actually were good at fishing? Because I think that's kind of a transition point of fishing with friends, fishing with Dad. When did you say, like, hey, I can actually catch these things pretty good?
Yeah, some local club tournaments and some BFLs towards the end of my high school days. I had some success, and it made me feel like, man, I think I know what I'm doing a little bit with this. So probably then, but when I went off to college and decided not to play golf, starting the fishing team there at Tusculum College in East Tennessee, where I grew up, uh, me and my buddy Corey Neese, we won some tournaments, and I was so immersed in it. I was watching everything, reading every magazine. Just I lived and breathed it. And I think having that success in college, as we were traveling to different lakes, not just the lakes around the house, we were traveling to different states, different lakes, and we were catching fish doing that and having success. I think that's when it really was like, I want to do this. I want to try to pursue a career in this.
Now, I did a little homework, and I think you went to school, and the school you went to did not have a fishing team or a club. Is that correct? You helped foster that?
Yeah, that's correct. They had a fishing club, but they didn't really have a fishing team in a sense. They didn't have, guys traveling to fish tournaments. It was more so just getting some students outside, whether it be fish a creek, a pond, a river, whatever it may be. And me and a couple of guys that I met there my freshman and sophomore year really just, met with the right people and put in the work, behind the scenes to turn it into a fishing team and get a little bit of funding and stuff. And it was really cool, man. I loved it. It was fun. And some of those friends I made and guys that helped me with that, they're, some of my best friends.
That's cool.
And
Like a
did you
legacy.
find
Do
that
you keep Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, did you find that your high school friends were like supportive? Right, you came up kind of fishing with them. You had your first super old boat at age 16, out there smashing bass. Like, how did they feel about? Did they rise up with you? Are they fishing? Are they fishing pros now, or was there any resistance, or it's all support?
I mean, like I'd say for me, I had a lot of people tell me early on, like, you know, you need to get a job, you're spending all this money, don't do this, don't do that, kind of not everybody was encouraging it and, supportive, um, of course, but a lot of my friends were, yeah. And not all of my friends fished, but, most of them were like, they didn't understand what I was doing. And now that I've had some of the success that I've had, and I've won some tournaments and this and that, they'll reach out like, "This is so cool what you're doing," So everybody's been pretty supportive. But as far as high school friends that I fished with, there might have been like one or two, and those guys still fish today. But it's kind of half and half on being supportive or not.
We had that, Bassmaster champion, and it's that whole naysayer opportunity when you're holding up that big check that says $115,000 at Potomac River. There's probably a couple people you might have wanted to show that to a little more than others, but congrats for that. What about the school that you left? Did they still have a fishing? Is there an actual team with a legacy that you left? Do you keep track of that team? Is that still going?
Man, I tried there for a while. It was a private school when I was there, and it changed to a public school. I think 2 years after I graduated, and I tried to still reach out and help and make sure everything was going. And it actually got really good probably the 4 or 5 years after I left. And as of lately, probably the past 2 or 3 years, I'm not sure. Uh, the last I heard that they still had a team. They didn't have a whole lot of people involved, but they did still have a team.
That's cool. No, I think it's a good inspiration just to know that you're going to a school. If your school doesn't have what you want, just dig in and make it happen. It's congrats to you for doing that. And obviously that was like the true takeoff point of getting you into professional angling. Walk us down that road, because I think there's some confusion of rookie season versus rookie angler of the year, rookie of the year 2022.
Yes, please
walk us down. Yeah, this help the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Because bass fishing, you got a couple tours now. Walk us through that if you can, your progression to where you are now in your rookie season again, it seems. So give us some insight.
Yeah. So, after I graduated college, I got a job working for a trucking company in the accounting department, and it was flexible enough to where I could fish the Bassmaster Opens. And like you said, there's two tours. You basically got Bassmaster and you have Major League Fishing. And I got into the Bassmaster Opens, and I fished them for 2 years. It was 2018 and 2019 that I fished. And 2018, I missed qualifying for the elites. It was my home lake was the last tournament, and I bombed and missed the elites that year. 2019, I fished almost all of the events, had a couple of tough ones, and I started just, I think that's when I met Isabella, and I met her that year, and yeah, I just really started. I was burning through all the money that I was making trying to do this. I was working that accounting job, but everything I was making, I was just blowing through it, and I was struggling financially, and it was tough. And me and Bella I knew early on that she was the one for me, and I have other aspirations in life other than just bass fishing. So I quickly decided, like, I'm going to take some time off. I'll fish local. So for the rest of the year, 2019, and then 2020 and in 2020, I focused on looking for other jobs. I started a guttering business with the help of some buddies. One of the guys that I fished with in college, Corey, his dad and him, they both recommended I started a guttering business. and I did, and it was slow at first. It was all trial and error, and but once it kind of got off the ground and started snowballing, it was making good money, and it gave me some freedom. And the Toyota series popped up on the schedule for 2021, and I told Isabella, I said, I want to do that, the Champlain one. And so we just went to Champlain, and then I ended up fishing all three of them and doing really well. So I qualified for the Major League Fishing. At the time, it was the pro circuit. It's now switched to the invitationals. But I finished top 5 in points. I got an invite, to fish the pro circuit in 22, and the guttering business was still going great. And it's crazy how all that happened, because once I kind of took a step away from the opens, I really thought, man, I'll never get back. It's just kind of the unknown I had there, and it worried because I love it so much. But God has a plan. Everything happens for a reason, and just kind of stuck with it. Go into 2022 on the pro circuit, and I had a really good start at Sam Rayburn, a really tough go at the Harris Chain, and then I think I went like 3 tournaments top 10 in a row, and
Wow.
just had a stellar year. Rookie of the year, and just had a blast. And then last year it was kind of up and down at first, but we got a win, and we ultimately qualified for the Bass Pro Tour last
That's
year. And so that's how I'm a rookie on the Bass Pro Tour this year. I'm not necessarily a rookie, but this is my first season fishing as a Bass Pro Tour angler.
Do you have to qualify every year, or is it just like once you make it, then kind of you're in? Unless
No, you're not safe. At the invitational level, you're really, not safe completely. They fill the field and everything. You need to have some good seasons. I mean, especially if you come, in the way I did, as far as like you need to be cutting checks and you need to be making money and stuff. You've gotta keep yourself in it for sure. As far as the Bass Pro Tour goes, it's kind of, man, I can't keep up with it, and this is my first year fishing it. So they've done it to where you had an average of 2 years, and if you fall in the bottom, I think 5 or 10 in points, then you get dropped back to the invitational level. And then they came out last fall and announced they were going to cut the field from 80 to 66. So this year I'm trying to stay. I feel like if I stay in the top 25 of points of the Angler of the Year race, that I will probably, be able to maintain my spot on the Bass Pro Tour. But
Can you?
it's still unknown, so I'm just trying to catch every bass I can catch and do as good as I can.
Yeah. Can you take us back? I think it was 2018. You said that you were like kind of on the cusp of qualifying. Last place that you need to fish is your home lake, and you bomb your home lake. And I'm not trying to like recount any feelings of dejection or anxiety. I'm actually like kind of super impressed with that, right? And like, what was going through your mind? How did you pick yourself back up after that and be like, you know what? I'm going to give myself another shot.
Yeah, it was tough. It was heartbreaking for me. I mean, to go fish the Bassmaster Opens fresh out of college and say that I was in the top 5 of points or 6 or whatever it had to be that year, with my home lake left. I mean, I was in a good place. I knew that it was going to be hard because a lot of times, fishing your home lake, 100 spots where you've caught fish before, you've gotten a bite, and it does make it hard on like being open minded and fishing fluid and making good decisions and fishing, in the moment, fishing the days and the conditions, um, and that for me, ultimately costed me. But it's just one of those things. I don't take things really hard. Um, even with the guttering business or decisions that I have to make with my fishing career, man. Yeah, I feel like I'm pretty laid back. I do get worked up sometimes over certain things, But I just try to stay level headed and handle everything as it comes. And I think it benefits me sometimes. And I think that was just one of those deals where it's not the end of the world. You didn't make it this year, but there's always next year. And guys like Brandon Polnick and some of those guys that I've always watched and listened to, they talk about it in their videos. If it's what you want to do, you set your mind to it and put in the work, you can make it happen. And I just always believed that I would fish professionally one day. And, it's happened and I've got this opportunity now. So I think that was more or less, what got me through that.
That's
I
awesome.
love that.
No, it's great because Isabella was on here with your wife just before, and she's mentioned the first date was fishing. It's incredible to think like the young Nick playing golf, an accountant, if I heard that right, working in the accounting department, starting a company, a business owner with the mindset of always having that dream and not really letting that dream go. So congrats to you for making it. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is you're there, you always have to fight for your job, but to even get to that stage, do you feel like that's an accomplishment already of just getting to that point? Or are you just still worried about maintaining it? Do you have some resolve of like, I actually made it here? Is that a sense of accomplishment?
Yeah,
for you?
where are you trying to go with it?
Man, well, first off, I want to clear it up that I'm no accountant. I'm not an accountant.
We got that when you said I couldn't tell if your job was flexible or if you're doing flexible accounting for a trucking company.
I had a good gig there part time doing some accounting work, but to say I was good at it, that's not the case. Anyhow,
No, I was going to ask. I was going to say, was it money laundering or did you go and collect past debts? But I didn't want to go into that, so we let it slide. So you worked in the accounting department. It's fine, and keep going. But
yeah,
anyway, I did want to know, like, is that something like, man, you made it? Because a lot of people just want to get there, and getting there, I just wonder what that feels like. Do you still see that and use that as value to you of like, I actually did this kind of dream accomplished? And then do you have to like set new dreams, or is that just the beginning, the entry into the playground?
man, it felt good when I finally last year on the Mississippi River in La Crosse, Wisconsin, when I knew I'd qualified, it was like just such a huge relief. Like you work so hard for it, every fish you catch, every decision you make all year long. It's very easy to not qualify. So I definitely felt good about it. It was a big accomplishment, still is to me that I'm fishing the Bass Pro Tour, but at the same time it's not something I'm just going to hold up, and say, look, I qualified. I'm very competitive, and I feel like that I have a ton of potential on the water, and I'm getting better. I still, a big thing for me was at the invitational level. It's 5 fish limits. You catch your 5 biggest, you bring them back to the weigh-in. And now on the Bass Pro Tour, I'm fishing, every fish over 2 pounds you catch will count, or whatever the weight minimum is. And that alone has been challenging for me as far as, making different decisions, how you practice, how you prepare, different things in that case. But, uh, man, I want to win. I want to, you look at guys like Alton Jr., Dustin Connell, Wheeler, those guys, they're in the top 10 almost every single tournament. Drew Gill, I mean, there's a bunch of them. Becker, Sheffield, there's a lot of guys, but I want to be one of those names to where guys are like, oh, Hatfield, he's going to top 10 this one. I really feel like I can be. I think it's one of those things, like it's not going to happen overnight. Uh, but I'm working hard at it. I'm fishing both trails this year. I'm trying to fish as much as I can. Uh, and I'm just trying to do everything I can to get better so I can put myself in those championship rounds to compete for wins. I want to put a lot of trophies up on the shelf, and that's
Awesome.
probably long-term goal for me.
Yeah. Okay, I want to dive in nuts and bolts here. This is the part where we get to start to educate some people, and this is really fun for us with Monster Bass, and we're connected to a lot of people that are just starting bass fishing, as well as people that they have this subscription box that comes every month, and it kind of challenges you to maybe try techniques that you're not comfortable with. You're on the highest stage of bass fishing, and today we wanted to really dive into this soft plastic discussion. What, just an overview before we get way into it. What role do soft plastics play at the highest level? I know I've seen what you did at different events. I know what bait you're holding up. I just saw you had an 11th place and you're holding up 2 rods and one was a soft plastic. I'll just give a little insight. Looked like a little swim bait and one was a worm. But that was a recent event. What is your idea of just thinking soft plastics in that role? Maybe thinking of a beginner getting into fishing. How important are soft plastics in your mind for bass fishing?
Dude, soft plastics are, really that bass fishing started. When I think of it, like the soft plastic worms, and now it's gone to a lot of jig and minnow, but soft plastics are super important in bass fishing. Whether it's a 5 fish limit, whether it's catch all you can, in my case, they catch a lot of big fish and they catch a lot of numbers. It might vary on what type of soft plastic you're using based on where you're at in the country, what lake you're on, what time of the year it is. But soft plastics are something that basically always get bit and will always catch fish.
Right. Now, so tell me, do you ever go through an experience where you're around French high school, it wasn't cool to use a worm? Is that because I feel that in kind of the negative aspect of maybe the swim bait crowd kind of looking down at drop shot, maybe looking down at throwing a wacky rig. You ever experience that when you were younger? And maybe even let us know, do you experience that now where pros are looking down upon what other people are throwing?
Um, you know, one of the first really good patterns and bites that I got on myself, once I got that boat, when I turned 16, was throwing a shaky head with a zoom 5 inch trick worm on it, and I knew where I could go throw it and get bit, and it was awesome to me. And I threw it on a spinning rod, of course, and I caught some heat from the local club guys. Man, you're always throwing that fairy one. They'd give me some crap like that. But today on the Bass Pro Tour, a lot of guys
Yeah.
are forward facing sonar, and some are against it. That's kind of the battle you see with it now. But uh, no, not a whole lot of heck about soft plastics in general.
No, it's interesting because those guys that were at the club level, no disrespect to them, but they're probably still there. And then you're throwing that same little fancy worm out there on the highest stage. So I think that kind of clears it up because the things just do some work. Can you tell me? I want to go deep into this one real quick.
Before you go
What?
deep into
Yeah,
it, could you just explain to me why is there even all right, I understand forward-facing sonar, right? Some people think that you might be able to see a little too much or whatever the controversy is there, fine. But like soft plastics versus hard plastics, like why is that even a thing? Like if we're playing basketball and I beat you with a three-pointer or a layup, who cares?
Yeah. I think there's more of a battle between guys that like forward-facing sonar and guys that don't like it. As far as what bait you're using, it really doesn't matter. Forward-facing sonar is so dominant nowadays. Like, guys are winning tournaments in Florida using forward-facing. Up shallow, like Okeechobee, what Scott Martin did, and what Chris Johnston just did on the St. John's, or Corey, I'm sorry. So, I don't feel like it's maybe like a battle between like, dang, I can't believe he caught him on that. I hate that or whatever. I think it's more or less, you've got guys that don't really like the forward facing and guys that do. I'm kind of, I really don't have an opinion on it. I really don't care. I grew up in an era where forward facing didn't exist, and I really cut my teeth and learned how to bass fish without it. So, if they took it away tomorrow, man, it is what it is. Like, I'll go fishing either way. It wouldn't bother me. I mean, I enjoy using it, and I feel like I've gotten pretty good with it. But I still, I feel like I could go catch fish without it. So,
that's awesome.
just one of the things. It's kind of it's caused a lot of turmoil, and a lot of people get all riled up about it. But I just, kind of lay back and go fishing. I mean, guys say all these pros are using forward facing sonar, but you kind of got to put yourself in our shoes. If you were out here, paying entry fees and fishing these tournaments, you would be using it too, because if you're not, you're basically getting beat or left behind right now. So it's not really, that I just love to do it. You just kind of have to use it.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things to consider, and it's interesting watching this evolution the last couple of years, where whether you're using a spinner bait, you're using a jerk bait, you're covering a lot of water, you got a bladed jig, and then we move into a forward-facing sonar world, and then the soft plastics become a big role. Like you're talking about this ball head, this Demiki style, this vertical strolling, and trying to keep the bait right in front of the fish. That soft plastic bait really is the bait that is the premier item to be using. With you, can you give some insight to a beginner, like when you're first fishing and you're talking really good? You told us about the shaky head with the worm, which I think that's gold. That works great. What would you advise a beginner angler with a soft plastic? What technique, what bait would you recommend? Get to know this one because it's going to work everywhere.
Yeah. Man, we've already said the shaky head. That's a good one. Shaky head will catch them anywhere in the country. Just any kind of trick worm, finesse worm, something smaller. Even the 7-inch ones are good. A wacky rig Cinco, a Texas rig Cinco, a Texas rig, a shaky head, and a wacky rig are just dynamite anywhere. And whether you're putting a Cinco on a shaky head or a ribbon tail on a Texas rig, I mean, like it really, I don't get too crazy as far as colors go. Some guys get really wild with, oh, I've got to have this one specific color. I think bass are. I heard Alton Jr. the other day say it in a video I watched. They're really opportunistic feeders, and they're just gonna eat something quick and easy. I don't feel like color is as big of a deal as some people make it, and I may not be exactly right on that, but I tend to stick with green pumpkin, black and blue, and then maybe another variation of a natural color, like maybe watermelon red. And I don't ever really stray too far from that as far as worms go. And, for a beginner, it's hard to beat the wacky rig, the shaky head, and a Texas rig.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking, that's right up my alley. I'm all about the most basic colors, green pumpkin. I use black sometimes with those similar same baits, and maybe something with the plum, but just a natural bait. What do you think about soft plastics with dipping the end in colorant or having some kind of dye? Do you do any scent? Are you worried about those extra little tricks of messing with the bait? Do you think that's important?
Man, so today I went back out on Kentucky Lake, and the wind was blowing, but it wasn't that bad. And at home in East Tennessee, this time of year when the smallmouth are spawning really hard, we catch them on a little finesse worm, and it's about 4 or 5 inches long. It's a green pumpkin, and for some reason, for years now, when I was fishing with Corey and learning this, these smallmouth, they spawn, and whether it's on a stump or in a crack of a rock or on a steep bank on some river rock or a pea gravel bank. I've always taken that little green worm and dipped the tail in chartreuse. Or if I'm throwing a Carolina rig with a brush hog on it, I'll always take the little end, the little appendages on the end,
Oh,
and dip it in chartreuse. As far as any other scents, I don't get into any of that, but I will dip my green pumpkin bait at, whatever it may be.
What does that? What does that do?
Uh, it gives it a little scent for sure. I think it's mostly like a garlic smell, but it just, I think it dyes at chartreuse, it's bright. It just kind of gives them something like, I think they just look at it as like, ooh, what is that? And, they just kind of hone in on it a little bit more, and you might get an extra bite or two out of it.
And I mean, Raphie, I'll tell you, it's funny because I have a buddy, we go rounds about this, and he's just always dipping. And sometimes the boat will splat, like something will happen, and like you got this yellow dye going all over it. His hands are covered in it. I believe by doing that and committing to that, you're fishing with a little bit more purpose. It's kind of funny. I always tease like, hey, you're dipping the end of that worm that's nowhere near your hook. And he's like, oh, it's a target for him. But there is this idea that in my mind, you're doing something a little extra. You're planning on catching a fish. So now when you cast, you're a little more connected to that bait. You're a little more committed. When that fish ticks that line, or maybe you're watching it and you see that line movement as it goes down, you're more connected to the bait itself. Almost like when you tie a fly and you go fishing with your own tied flies. It's like there's this connection. Now you have a bait you just got out of a bag. Well, now you customized it. You made it your own bait. So I'm all about that. I think it's kind of cool to have that connection. And then I guess
there's a lot to be said about like the ritual of it all, right? You know, it's like you ask anybody who quits coffee, or you ask anybody who quits smoking, right? What do they miss about quitting smoking? They miss like packing the pack of cigarettes. They miss like ripping the foil off of the pack, you know, or whatever it is, right? They miss grinding the coffee beans. It's funny how like usually when I find that somebody that I know like either quits something or abstains from something, they don't miss the thing itself. They miss all of like the ritual and the process that surrounded it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to know, Nick. So that's I think you're in. I want to know from Nick. Like, Nick, you dip it in, you got this chartreuse. How long do you wait before you can cast it? Do you blow on it? Like, what I want to know. Like, this is where it's because I know every angler has all these superstitions and things, and you're laughing because I know it's the same every time because I watch my buddy and he's doing his little thing and it's like 3 blows and about 7 seconds before he can pitch that thing or flip it or whatever. But it's the same every time. What do you got? Tell us your rundown of dipping the chartreuse tips on the baits.
Man, so I've got the chartreuse pins that I'll use sometimes, but I don't like using them on a worm just because you have to kind of spin the worm and get it all over it. So I just use the little jar of Spike It. It's about this big, the little jar of Spike It chartreuse dye. And for me, I don't know if anybody else has done this, but I've gotten that crap everywhere in my carpet.
That was question 2. I just wanted to know. Tell us a horror story because I promise you, if you have the jar and you have it open, it's gone everywhere. How nice does the carpet? Yeah. Give us some insight, like covering your bibs, or like if you ruined an outfit, had to go to dinner, all of a sudden you're meeting Isabella and you're covered in yellow ink. Tell us something.
Like, if you get it on your hands, it's there for 2 weeks. You go ahead and bet on it. Like, you're going to have to soak your hands in some gas or some kerosene to get it off. It's that bad. But I just, I think it was one of the boats I had while I was fishing the open. I'd actually, and I try to do it. That's what you'd ask me. How do I do it? I set the jar. You know, some boats have a little place for you to just throw baits and whatever you've used that day, and they sit in there. Well, I had so many baits piled high in this thing, I couldn't set the jar right there to keep it away from the carpet. So I set it up on the deck, and typically what I do is I'll dip the worm in it and have my rod there with the line going out over the edge of the boat, and I'll dip the worm in it, and then I'll just throw the worm right in the water or whatever it might be. And that way, because once it gets wet, it still has the color to it and a little bit of the scent, but it doesn't, like, you can touch it to the carpet after that and it won't stain the carpet. Right. Yeah. Well, in this instance, I had it sitting there and I went to throw it and the line had caught the top of the jar and it just
no.
But they actually Spike It makes some carpet cleaner for it, and when that happened, I mean, I'm like, I got to replace the carpet and whole boat now. I was pissed, but I got
genius of Spike It, by the way. Sell the problem and then sell the solution.
Yeah, so I got introduced to that and used it, and it brought it out. I think, you might still be able, whoever owns that boat now, you might still be able to see a little bit of it, but it's not as bad as it was.
Chris, do you remember that movie about like it was about the origination of the silicone breast implants, and it was starring that one dude from Friends whose name I forget, and it was the craziest thing, right? Because it was these 2 plastic surgeons, I think from Miami, and they were making money hand over fist, right? And then all of a sudden, all of these studies came out, people started getting sick, implants started leaking, and they thought that they were ruined. And then they were like, wait a second, we could now charge to correct all of our mistakes and pull the implants out. And they made money again. That reminds me of what Spike It just did. Like, we're going to sell dye. we're going to cause a big problem, and then we're going to sell the very thing that gets that dye out. I can't get over that. That's better than soaking your hands in kerosene. That's genius.
You know what? Sometimes, hey Nick, just so you know, with Raphie, sometimes we have to just let him go on his tangent because you're talking about spike it, and then he went to breast implant. So I'm not even going to touch that. But
I think there's a parallel there.
All right, so we're talking soft plastic. So I think we'll just leave that out there because we'll keep going. What other rituals do you have? Because I know there's superstitions, and you have big tournaments the night before the tournament. There's got to be something. I don't know if you're wearing the same underwear or what you're doing, but what other superstitions do you have in your prep that you've got to do the same every time?
Man, I don't have many. I really don't. I do have a couple. I don't bring bananas in the boat, and I don't know why, because I like bananas, and I don't really feel like that's going to keep me from catching bass. But everybody says they don't like it, so I've always kept them away from my boat. And one thing, I don't have to worry about it on the Bass Pro Tour because we don't use nets, but fishing the invitationals or a BFL or something where I've got, a net and I can use one, I can't get the net out. Yeah, I've got in my Phoenix, I've got a little, they've got a net holder. I don't know if you guys have ever been in the Phoenix and seen one, but they got one in the floor. It just pops up and the net slides in there. Well, if you were to try to get that out while you're, trying to reel a fish in, you're not going to get it out in time. You might as well just boat flip it or go down and grab the fish. But I do not get the net out until I've caught at least one or two. If I get the net out and it's sitting there ready when I roll up to my first spot, I will not catch a bass, and that's facts. So net stays up until I catch at least one or two.
Nice. See, I figured there was something out there. And I know, Raphie, you were wondering about that. There's always something. And do you ever go out with the intentions of changing that? Because I've done that where I'm like, okay, bananas, and whether it was bananas that were rotting on boats in the ocean and it made people sick, and there's all these things connecting it to folklore. I purposely went out for a while. I'm like, every time I fish, I'm going to break this down. I'm bringing a banana to change the bad luck. Have you ever tried to bring the net out and purposely go catch some fish where you can't smash it, or you just say, forget it, I'm just a no net guy until I catch a couple?
Well, I have. I one morning, I think it was last year, I had somebody was like, oh, that don't matter, just get the net out, don't lose one being an idiot. And I laid the net out, and it's like 12 o'clock, and I don't have a bite. I haven't caught one. And so I put the net up, and then I caught some, and then I got it back out, and it was fine. But that for me, I've went out and intentionally gotten it out, and I don't catch fish when the net's there ready first thing in the morning. I have to ease into the day and then pull that sucker.
Chris, I think new video concept for you, right? Just a whole bunch of shorts of you boat flipping fish with one hand and eating a banana with the other, and that's it.
I'm telling you. No, it's just I always like to just be the contrary. Like, people are like, oh, you can't do this. I think in bass fishing, there's so many can'ts, and this whole bass Bible that somebody wrote so long ago. And it's fun because I think, Nick, you break a lot of those rules at times, and you may not even know you're doing it on purpose. One, I watched you were given insight to your wacky hook that you're using on a Cinco, and you're using a trailer hook, if I'm not wrong here, and a trailer hook on a spinnerbait. And I want to talk about that in a little bit, but as far as having the rules of fishing, where did you learn your basic techniques? And I'm going to go into a couple more questions in a minute, but how did you write down okay, did you have a list? I need to get good with a spinnerbait. Obviously growing up where you grew up, and you maybe got some grass to punch and you could fish frogs all over and you got all these different things, but how did you itemize kind of your journey through the different techniques to become a better angler? I think we're on hold a little bit.
I think we stumped a great question, Chris.
I crushed it.
Just broke the guest.
Broke the internet. He's like, I don't have an answer. He's probably got the banana out.
I always thought that the bananas were like the oils, right? And for whatever reason, when you have banana oils on your hand, and then when you're touching bait or whatever, it almost acts as like a repellent.
So it was you can go to the internet. I've actually, because I'm with the sock business, I have some no skunk socks, and it's a skunk eating a banana. I don't buy into it. Doing my research, I found out that bananas were in the middle, the holes of the boats. And I'm talking 1500s. the bananas, when they would rot, would have some kind of sickness associated with it, and the people on those boats would get sick. And that's where it started, was the ocean vessels crossing the ocean didn't want to have bananas associated with them, carried into freshwater fishing. And then it's just like this whole folklore thing that it's just a superstition. But the oils on your hands, take a banana, smash it up, put your rubber worms in a bag, and maybe try that one night. It's probably going to be the best, the next best thing. But Nick, I don't know if you heard the
banana scented worms.
I heard the question. I must have lost you right after that.
No, yeah, it froze up, but we were laughing because I stumped you. Did you itemize your journey through different techniques, or how did you just like? And I think I may be a little ahead of myself because I know you want to be known as a all-around angler, and you have a lot of skills, and your skill set is very versatile. And so I'm just going to throw that out there. It seems like you've definitely done your work to get progressive at all these techniques. And that's really why I'm asking the question, because I already know that. But how did you become proficient with so many things? Did you itemize it? Did you pick one and work on it for a while, and give us some insight to that journey?
Yeah. So, my dad, when I started fishing with him, he taught me a lot of the basics. I learned a lot from him, and he'll be the first to tell you he's a bank beater. He's always up there slinging a crankbait or flipping a jig or something. And I learned a lot of the basics from him. Once I, had started fishing on my own, I think one thing that helped me a lot, there's a couple things, but one of the things where I'm from in East Tennessee, we've got so many different lakes there with, some have grass, some don't. Some are deeper, some are shallower. And it's just an all around type of, area to catch fish different ways throughout the year. So that for sure played a big role in me learning a lot of different techniques.
All right, I think we might have lost him again, but we caught most of it. But it's a good transition because we've had a couple callers that have been on the line, and then awesome. Some have actually dropped off because we've been ignoring some of them. But Nick, I think Fixie told you one of the things that makes this show a little bit more unique is that you can actually engage with the listeners and engage with your fans. And so we do have a caller. Fixie, you wanna take this? All right, go ahead. You are on the air. Who do we got?
Good afternoon, Raphie.
It's
Nick?
T-Rex.
Fix? I'm not going to call in.
I appreciate you calling in. I
Hey,
think
Nick?
the way that maybe I started the show, you were trying to save me by calling in. So good work.
All right. So my question for Nick is, you spend your however long it is. I usually pre-fish a tournament 3 to 4 days, then I take a day off before the tournament starts. How do you determine day one where you're going, to what part of the lake, and what you're going to throw first?
I take into consideration time of year, and obviously I'll do a lot of research and map study before I get there. Even all the way up until the night before practice starts, I'm looking at a map, trying to think of where they might be based on the time of the year. So a lot of thought and time just thinking about it goes into it for sure. But really, just once I get out on the water, I would love to say that I know, hey, they should be doing this, I'm going to go throw that. But a lot of times, man, it might be 9, 10, 11 o'clock before I even, think I'm around a bass or feel like I've found the right water or seen what I need to see on the graphs to make a cast. So it really just depends, but you just have to put a lot of time in as far as map study and research on the weather, what the water level's been, what it might change to, and just kind of, use that to your advantage to be able to say, well, I can, I should be able to go do this, or I should be able to go do that. And 95% of the time when I get out there and I'm practicing, I find out that what I thought was right or what I thought was going to happen is it's just exactly the opposite. And I find myself being ahead of the fish or behind the fish most of the time. But it's really just putting a lot of work and time in before you get there in the weather, like I said.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. The water one. I was fishing the One Bass U.S. Open last year at Lake Mojave, and within a 24-hour period, the lake dropped 8 feet. So everywhere I had marked good fish was now out of the water. So yeah, that kind of sucked.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I don't want to hold you guys up too much. I know there's probably a lot of callers, and I know you guys are short on time. So, Nick, we appreciate you calling in. It's always a good time here with Monster Bass, and welcome back anytime. Raphie, Fix, keep up the great work. Chris, if you're back, have a good day.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks, T-Rex. So it looks like Nick is frozen again, or no? A little frozen. Nick, you can hear us, though? No, can't even hear us.
I can hear you. I'm trying to work on it. I'm not sure what the issue is. I'm trying to work on it. I got Bella helping me.
Oh, I could see the issue. The issue is that on the screen you're frozen.
Yeah, that's all. It's all good though. It sounds like the voice is coming through fine.
Yeah.
Nick,
Yeah.
as
we got
far
another
as
caller,
yeah,
Chris. But,
okay, let's keep going.
All right, Fixie, let's take. But I also have another question. I think the biggest controversy in fishing is not forward-facing sonar or soft plastics versus hard plastics. I think isn't pre-fishing just fishing. But anyway, caller, you're on the air. From
Hello?
Hello.
Hello, yeah. Just a quick question. I ain't a boat fisherman, so I'm kind of I do a lot of bank fishing. Soft plastic. When we're talking about soft plastics, I just your indication, I guess, of what is kind of your go-to, wait time. I'm a kind of a fast fisherman that I've done my entire life. I've done a lot of fly fishing, and then I've started getting into the bass fishing here a little bit, and I'm kind of trying to learn this bass fishing a little bit. So I'm kind of learning some of this soft plastic stuff and the wait time compared to the fly fishing time and fast fishing. What is your kind of your typical wait time, I guess you can say, on soft plastics, if that makes sense.
Are you asking like weight sizes or wait time as far as working the bait?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, as in like pause time. Yeah, as in like pause time. So
Yeah.
You throw in the wacky rig and you let it settle, and then you pop and then wait and pop and wait. I'm not quite. I don't know that part of it. I'm no tournament fisherman by all means. I'm just looking to up my percentage a little bit on fishing and fishing with my kids and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Soft plastics as a whole, there's a few that you're going to throw out there and you're going to wind back in like a speed worm and other things. But for the most part, soft plastics, you're talking about fishing a little bit slower. And it's something, it's just kind of, it's a term that a lot of pros use. Man, I need to slow down. And a lot of times when they say I need to slow down, they're going to pick up a soft plastic bait, most of the time. And, with a wacky worm or a shaky head or something, that's just a bait that you want to send out there and you want to let it go to the bottom and you want to just kind of drag it along, just pop it every now and again. And like I said, typically you're going to be fishing it slower. And it's just a presentation. It's kind of a do-nothing presentation. The bait's just down there dragging along or hopping along. You're barely moving it. And that's really what entices a bass to eat it. It's not something that's just kind of flying over their head to make them react to it. And that's what makes a soft plastic. It's more of a slow down, really work it, that type of bait.
Gotcha. Okay. So then just kind of let it sit for a little bit then.
Yeah, wacky worm. When I won over on the Potomac River, I was fishing a set of brim beds, and they were probably about 30 yards in diameter, maybe less. But I would throw that wacky worm out there, towards the back of that set of brim beds, or if you're fishing a rock pile, or if you're fishing, a brush pile, is out in the middle of this pocket off the bank. You want to throw it out there kind of past your target where you think the bass are. And you want to just let it sit all the way on the bottom. And then you're going to work it in, just hopping it a little bit as you go. You want to do it slower than faster. And the reason for that is you might hop it through a brush pile or over a rock pile and sitting there. And the next thing you know, when you pick up on it, it's heavy and swimming off. Time they'll get when it sits.
I think I was going to say we're losing him a little bit. I can help out with
Fix is dying a slow death.
Yeah,
right
it's just Fix is trying to figure it out. But with Nick had a great, and this is the answer with the caller. Nick has a great video. If you go to YouTube, type his name in, and you'll see it says day 5, and it's the day after he won that event. And he does exactly what he's talking about. And he's out there with a person, and he throws that wacky worm up into that rock bank, and he lifts his rod, and he's talking about it as it sinks and as he lifts, and he actually gets a fish to hit it right at the exact same time as he's describing exactly the answer to that call. So Nick, it's cool to hear you say that whole thing was slowing down. And I think that's sometimes that pressure of like, oh, I got to fish power baits. I got to fish cool or fast or whatever. It's such an easy thing to hand a rod to a beginner and just say, hey, just throw this thing out there. And sometimes don't move it. Let it dead stick. Let it sit there. Let the fish swim over and find it. And I think that's an important thing to always remind ourselves of, like, hey, sometimes just the fall of that soft plastic, the way it's traveling through the water, that's enough to entice that fish to come over and take the bite and to catch those fish. So it's not always us doing something other than just casting it and putting in front of their face.
Yeah, that makes total sense, man. I appreciate you guys. And then I guess to kind of add on to that, then for us rookies, I guess you can say, so once you let it, you let it dead stick like that, and you let it just drop all the way to the bottom. Obviously, there's nothing there from that get-go. You give it a few pops. How long is that time frame, I guess, in between pops, I guess? Or is that going to vary season to season or throughout a season, I guess?
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Yeah, it's going to vary. It does. I hope you guys can hear me, but it does. It makes sense. When the water's colder, you definitely want to go slower than when the water's warmer. But when I work a Senko, a wacky rig Senko, I'll just, when it hits the bottom, I'll let it sit for maybe 3 to 5 seconds, and then I'll pop it up, and I'll let it go to the bottom.
Okay.
And about another 5 or 7 seconds. Pop it up. Just kind of vary your retrieve, and that's when you'll be able to tell when you get a bite. Oh man, it was sitting on the bottom when that fish bit, or I was going to move it when it bit. And it's just some of the things you want to pay attention to as you're fishing to figure out how they want it, because each day is different in bass fishing, and they may want it coming quick one day, and they may want it sitting there not moving at all the next.
Gotcha. Awesome. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I totally get that one. Okay, well, I appreciate you guys, man. You guys take care, and good luck in your fishing tournament.
Yeah, thanks for calling.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, Fixie, I think in the interest of time, because we're north of an hour, we got a bunch of calls queued up. I want to get to all of them. Why don't you shut down the hotline so that we're not here all night? I know, Chris and Nick, you guys did not expect VIP appearances when you came onto this live, but we have a very special surprise guest who's calling in. And I have some questions for him.
What do you got?
Caller, you're on the air. And my question is, why did you leave me here by myself?
Listen, my PB 5.1 is a smallmouth. Don't be jealous. And I heard you guys are having the best show without me, and so I don't need to ever come back.
Yeah, well, actually, Raphie's been crying the whole time. He needs he needs a mental day off. He's going to have to meditate extra. Hey, Rick, we miss you for sure. But how's the weather where you're at?
Well, let me tell you. Yesterday it was 30, but 30 means like 90. And because I'm in Vancouver, Canada, and of course it's all metric. And today it's back to normal where it's overcast and rainy. And I thought I'd call in and check out this hotline that you guys seem to have on the show. It seems like you guys are having a great show without me, and so I started feeling bad about myself because you guys are doing good. Clearly, there's no need for me to be on this show.
It's been
other than to scold Marty the party because Marty's like talking crap about how the chat is all silent and quiet, and I was like, Marty, it's your job, step up, but no. Can't do it.
Well, so now you know what it's like, Rick. I was going to say, don't hang up on Rick yet, but
no, we're not going to hang up on Rick. We're actually going to bring Marty the party in because he's on hold.
Let's get him because I was going to say, Rick, down here in California, then now you get the feel. We're down here in California. It's kind of getting towards that spawn, post-spawn. Nick's probably got the same water. You're up in pre-spawn area all around this regional difference of colder water. So let us know once you find the fish up there next week. We want a fish report. But is Marty available to hop in here?
Marty's on. And Marty, Rick has some choice words for you.
Yeah, Marty, I'm really. I just want you to know, Marty, how disappointed I am. You have a choice on how you show up to my show every single week, and you could take over the chat. You could show up differently in Raphie's absence, but instead you choose to go glass half empty in front of Nick and literally show him everything that we're trying not to be. And so, Nick, I want to say to you and your relatives of Kentucky, I'm sorry. But if you want to take him out back and shoot him for old time's sake, I say shoot him.
I hear you.
No. Hey, I don't want to hear from you.
I ran the chat last week.
Yeah. You know what, Marty, it's a really good lesson, Rick. You know, some people point out problems, other people solve them.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
I'll solve them, Marty.
Nick's praying. Nick's praying that his screen freezes.
Sure Nick has enough time. But I want to make sure Nick has enough time. Nick, you know, if your relatives, how would they have handled it? How would they have handled it?
Did he say he would have manhandled my relative?
No.
He said yes. He said I would have manhandled your relatives. That's exactly what I heard.
Yeah, he said the Hatfields. Come on. Yeah, I think he said single-handedly he could take on the Hatfields is what I heard him say.
Have you met Rick McCoy?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's God.
Well, I mean, that's why he's not sponsored by McCoy Silk, right? Because you could never use that line if your last name is Hatfield.
No.
Are you done, Rick? I got some questions.
I forgot he was on the line.
If I derailed,
I'm still here.
No, Rick, you've perfectly railed it. You've railed the show.
You did. It's
good.
Yeah, I've ruined it. Ruined it for everybody.
Marty, get us. What's your question, Marty? You're allowed one question when you call it. What do you got?
Go ahead.
All right. So, Nick, I'm up here in Virginia, and you were fishing in my backyard on the Potomac. What was your go-to color on the Potomac when you won?
Ooh, can I guess?
I threw a green pumpkin magic.
Green pumpkin.
Yamamoto sink.
I had three guesses. It was either green pumpkin, like a watermelon, or a
No,
black
no.
and
Here's
blue?
here's the serious question. Did you dip
that
the
out.
tip? Did you dip the tip in chartreuse before you cast it? That's what I want to know.
Easy, Chris. This is a kid
No,
show.
let it go. Okay. Did you dip?
I'm dipping my tip right
He's just
now.
fishing.
Marty's not dipping his tip.
I
Let it go.
was not dipping the tip when I won on the
See, all right. Well, there you go. See, he says he always does, but I didn't see him doing the spike it during that day 5. So
Yeah.
it works sometimes. Sometimes it's
I'm
important,
learning
you know.
so many new things about fishing. I never knew that there was a term called bank beater, which is exciting to me. And never dip your tip in the live well, right?
I swear, this is so good. There's just golden nuggets just waiting, just set on a tee for you the whole time. So the fact that Nick
This is why I'm usually in the chat.
This is why you're banished to the chat only. So
Yeah. Nick's
All right,
video
well-
is working fine. He's just pretending to freeze right now. He's like playing possum.
Yeah.
Isabella has a frying pan off to the side ready just to hit him, so he had no
All right.
idea what he was stepping into.
Well, Rick, if I still have a job when you get back,
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
aren't you supposed to be like officiating a wedding or fooling people that it's a birthday party?
That's tomorrow.
Oh,
Nobody knows.
right.
That's why I didn't post on social. I'm afraid that like if I tell anybody that like I'm up here, they're gonna be like, have a great time at the wedding, and then someone's gonna be like, what are you talking about?
Spoiler alert.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah.
If anybody at the wedding is
That's
watching the
okay.
show, we were just kidding. It's just a birthday party, so your secret's safe with us.
Yeah,
Right.
we're all good.
and Rick, fix
We're all good.
fix spite dropped Marty, so you're good. You've been vindicated.
All right. Okay.
Cool.
Well, listen, I just wanted to jump on. I want to say thank you to Nick for coming on the show. I'm really, I really wish I had an opportunity to be a part of the conversation, and I just wanted to thank him and Ricky from Bass 365 for making this happen. Really appreciate both you guys. I hope you guys had a great show, and I'm going to jump off so that you guys can do your thing. And and to everybody else in Monster Bass Nation, I'll see you guys next week. We are having the show, Raphie, that we kind of talked about, right?
Yeah, next week.
Okay. Yeah. Make sure we tell people like we're gonna have this conversation.
Yeah, next week is a big announcement. Some very exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Rick, we're also
don't tell them.
We're also having
Right.
the show that you thought
Yeah.
we were going to have this week, an absolute disaster in your absence.
That's right.
We're crushing it.
All right. All right. Great. You guys are awesome. I gotta go.
Later.
Thank you.
All right, we got one last caller, unless they got scared. Nope, they're still there. All right, is this Chad?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right, well,
Yeah.
welcome. Glad we didn't scare you off.
Well, yeah. No, I thought something with this was kind of funny. Listen, my dad actually just gave me a boat. And the hilarious thing, though, is I'm 50, though. I'm not 16. And I'm just now getting into bass fishing at 50. And I wish you two would have been around when I was 16. And I guess my question kind of for Nick is like, hey, does he still get into watching any other guy, YouTube videos? And how did that play a factor in his career early watching anybody?
Yeah, early on, I guess probably in college and stuff, mainly all I had was just, I guess the TV shows from previous events. And Brandon Polnick and a few select other guys had gotten heavy into YouTube. So I watched them. But I do watch YouTube. I pay attention to things. I mean, I think you kind of have to. It's there. It's for public use. And I don't go through each and every one of them and watch it. But it's definitely something I'll still do. Just to see the lake, especially if it's a place I haven't been to and haven't had a chance to go to. I'll watch some videos on it just to kind of see what it looks like, how the place lays out, just from a camera perspective of someone out on the water. So, yeah, YouTube's definitely a useful tool.
All right. Well, that's all I really had. I just I appreciate you. Appreciate really what a lot of y'all do as far as just the teaching part of it. Especially just getting into it. There's things like, wait a minute, that's designed to actually bump up against stuff, and I would have, I don't know. It's just funny things you take for granted. Anyway, thanks. Bye.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, man.
I got to tell you, I am so thankful that YouTube or social media was not around when I was 16. It would be a disaster, the things that would be like available to view right now.
Yeah, we'd have some skeletons on you. I want to go. I think we've only got about 15 minutes or so to wrap us up really on time. Nick, we've talked a lot about all the different techniques, different things. We've touched on the soft plastics really and didn't go way into it. I have a question, and this is what most pro anglers kind of avoid. What are you bad at? Like, what is a technique that you do not feel like you've mastered or something you still need to work
on? I actually just had a conversation the other day with a good buddy of mine, Alec Morrison, about flogging smallmouth up north, that are on the bed. Yeah. And I've not spent a whole lot of time using a flogger and doing that. And I have, mad props to guys that have won, big 5-fish limit, tournaments flogging 5 big smallmouth a day. Because especially in waves and stuff, that's tough to look through a flogger, work the rod, have the boat positioned the right way and everything all at the same time. And that's definitely one of the things on top of my list that I would like to, spend some more time doing and getting better at.
That's awesome. I think that's the sign of a true pro when you can get a question like that and immediately you already had that itemized thing. I need to work on this. This is a shortcoming to something I need to get better. So it's cool because a lot of people are like, I don't really have something, but I've always found that if you ask somebody that's a true champion, whether it's champion in the making or somebody that's great at something, they're always interested in progression. And so, cool for you to share that. That takes some humility. Mental health is something people talk about in sports. Seems like you're so level, and you said you get fired up sometimes. Do you do anything away from fishing to help mental health, like getting prepared? Do you meditate? How do you get in the right mindset for fishing?
I just like at the current moment, me and Bella, my wife, we're working on remodeling a house that we bought, so we have that going on. We've got all these tournaments going on, and then I help, thankfully my brother is my business partner with the guttering business and siding business now. So I still have to help him out. So I have so much going on at once and it's a lot. But just as far as preparing and staying level headed, I don't know. I don't know how I do it really. I do get stressed out and I do worry and stuff, but I always try to think back to, how blessed I truly am and just how thankful I am for the opportunities that I have and the health I have and the family I have. And at the end of the day, man, I'm just fishing, it is what it is. We're out there chasing a bunch of little green fish around. And, if I don't catch them, I don't catch them, but I could be doing a lot worse things and be in a lot worse positions. So I think for me, just, always remembering, how truly blessed I am to be where I'm at is just really what, keeps me level headed and keeps me kind of sane and dealing with everything.
That's awesome. That's good. Do you have anything outside of fishing? Because when fishing is your passion, you're growing up, you're loving it. You used to play a little golf. Do you have something that you can actually remove yourself? Because now fishing isn't just your passion, it's your job. What else is there in the life of Nick that allows you to kind of like let some stress out?
Yeah, man, we a lot in the summer, we normally go on a vacation or two, but we hang out at the lake in the summer, and I'd be lying if I didn't say I drank a couple cold ones here and there, but play some golf and hang out with friends, just there's a lot of stuff that we do. We're always trying to get into something when we got some off time. We do a lot of different things, but really just I've been so busy here lately with everything I've got going on. I don't know, like right off, like what I can say I do to try to get
No,
away from fishing, because I feel like
yeah.
it's everywhere I look.
I love it. Yeah, you're sneaking around your golf clubs, and you're out there trying to catch some fish. You see them bedded up next to the green or something. So, no, I think it's a good thing to consider, like how we actually all do this, because fishing it's not my job, but I get to work in the fishing industry, and it's like any spare moment. If I'm on a lake, if I'm on a boat, I'm like thinking of fishing, and so every once in a while we need to kind of unplug and go do something else. And I think that gives us that opportunity to come back and say, like, man, I'm just excited to fish. I mean, thanks for that answer of just always being that positive mindset to give us the recognition of, like, very fortunate to be able to do these things that we all do in this free country. So pretty special. Raphie, how do you feel on time? I know we're getting close. You got anything other business stuff we need to wrap up, and working with Nick on this?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you to Nick. For I know how busy you are, and you didn't have to be on this show, but you chose to be, and I appreciate that. I know that meant that you had to sacrifice some things, even if it was some free time. I really love the fact that you talk about how blessed you are. And Fix, speaking of blessed, can we just take one more look at Matt Miller? I love this guy so much. I can't even begin to tell you. I mean, I think it's the shades that crush it for me. I mean, forget about that gigantic Smalley as well, but it's oh my God, Matt, you're my favorite. And
next event, maybe Nick, next event, some American flag gloves or something, just starting off the cool morning. So, yeah, can you tell us? I know, Nick, being here, obviously, work, hanging out, we're goofing off, having a good time on the show. Can you run through some sponsors? Because I know that's a huge part of your life and your business. Who's helped you out? Where can we find the businesses that have supported you? Because I think the due diligence for us to have you on the show, it's our responsibility. I always want to give that a shout out opportunity. So run us through some of the sponsors. I think you switched to Suzuki this year. Let us know who are the people behind you.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. I'll try not to forget any, but Doomsday Tackle Company, they got behind me early, and they've been great to me. Will over there, he's a good dude, and they make a great rod. I've been making some videos. I've been trying to tell people about the Doomsday rods. You can go to their website. It's just Doomsday Tackle Company or doomsdaytackle.com. And they run a ton of deals on rods there. Get on there and check them out. They make a lot of different ones and a lot of different actions, and they're all great rods. They'll stand behind them. And, I've got a guy from home, Eddie Harmon, with Greene County Express. He's been great to me. He's a big sponsor of mine, good friend. We play a lot of golf together. I try to give him as much crap as I can, but he's a good dude. He's been really good to me. Suzuki got on board this year, and I'm super thankful for that. I love the motor so far. I've had hundreds of people come up and ask me, man, what do you think about that motor? How do you like it? And I love it. It's super quiet. It's still got that growl to it when you're in that mid range. It does really good. But super nice motor, super pumped to kind of see what the future holds there. Phoenix Bass Boats, all those guys over there, couldn't be in a better boat. Power Pole, the people with Garmin, I love, this is the first year I've ran all Garmins. I've been running some Garmins in the past, but this is the first year I've ran all Garmins, and I absolutely love that system. Hayabusa, Dakota Lithium, my boys at Featherwick, Scott's Time and Andrea, man, they take care of me what I need at times. I mean, they really do help out a bunch. The guys at Immersed Outdoors that rigged my boat. I mean, I couldn't be out here doing this without the peace of mind of knowing that boat's rigged and tournament ready, and like I know where everything's at. And if there's a failure, if there just so happens to be a failure, they've got everything labeled. They've got it rigged to where I can fix it easily. I can access it quick. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody. I'm trying to look on the truck out there to see, but
yeah, whose stickers out there? Who
you can have Isabella just like fill in for a couple seconds while you go out and look at the truck.
Oh, it's great. No, I think it's important. This is a cool piece of like understanding.
There's so many.
Oh, yeah, it's who's behind you, who's got you, who's helping you. I think people sometimes think, oh, he's a professional. It's just like it's gravy, it's easy. You're not just on professional staff, you're on promotional staff. So I mean, hats off to you for even running down that route. That's a lot of people you're thanking, but you can tell they're part of your livelihood, they're part of your family. And then that's pretty impressive. That's cool. I always like to get that,
Yeah,
as
for sure.
we're wrapping things up, because you're working with some incredible companies. You just a down home guy. It's super fun to chat with you, and to know that those people are behind you. I mean, that always gives me this opportunity of like, it's cool. Those brands, if they're supporting a person like you, it makes me, more interested to support them. So congrats to all those relationships.
Yeah, thanks, man. That's what it takes. From early on, I started just being a friend to someone first. Just meet somebody, get to know them, and that's really how I've created all of these relationships. Is just being myself and being upfront and honest, and just trying to be a friend first. And it snowballed into what it has. And I think there's something to say about that in the industry. You don't just go running and asking for things. You kind of just you got to ease your way into it. It comes with time, and I've been very fortunate with it. But I would like to thank you guys too for having me on. I'm sorry that the service has been a little glitchy, but I love doing this type of stuff. Don't think that it's been a burden for me to take some time out to do this. You guys ever want me back on here, you just give me a call. I'll do it again any day. I enjoy this stuff just as much as I do out there on the lake. So,
and we sure do. I'm excited that we're one of the people that are getting in with you in the beginning, and now we could watch and support you throughout your entire career. It's pretty awesome.
Right. We're going. Hey, someday we're going to go golf. We need to do another live. We'll go do it on the golf course. We'll go fish a pond on a golf course. There's some fun future stuff we can do. That'd be cool.
Heck yeah.
Well, cool, man. Thank you so much. And until next time, you're going to be golfing with Chris. Rick's going to be traveling again, and I'm going to be bank beating. It's my new favorite term.
All right. All right. Thanks, Nick. It's good to meet you, man.
Oh, that's funny.
Good luck in the next event. I know I got after the show. I'm gonna have to go through the whole flogging, bank beating, dip the tip. It's gonna be a whole night of education for Raphie. So we appreciate you, Nick.
I have questions.
You got a lot of questions. I know. We'll get it figured out. But Nick, you're super excited. Congrats on what you've done, and looking forward to watching you for the rest of the year. Good luck out there.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Good work, Fix.
He's a great
favorite part of the show.
What a great dude. I'm telling you, there's so much for you to get. I know the flogging thing was up, and it's like looking in the water. They have these. Did you get it? Did it make sense at all what a flogger is? Like to look. It's not hitting anybody. We're not flogging anyone.
I know what
does flogging make. Does it make any sense to you, Raphie, what a flogger is?
No, it makes no sense to me what a flogger is. I heard flogging smallmouth, and I stopped listening and started just like internal giggling.
So the 2-second, if you think of like a megaphone, if you think there's a piece of glass on the bottom, you can look down. You actually have it in the water and they float. You look down in the water, and it's a way to actually truly get to see underwater, and you get to fish for fish on beds. So you're and smallmouth, super aggressive. There's a lot of stuff that technique, and he's talking about the boats moving, and you're looking through this thing, and you're trying to use your rod. The boat motor's moving. Pretty interesting how much those will be used in the future versus forward-facing sonar. So all kinds of things to discuss, but it's a whole technique, and it's utilizing a tool to see literally underwater. It's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like stick your head, just wear some goggles and put your head under the water. But it's this piece you can actually see underwater. So that's flogging.
I want to whoever like is like the president of bass fishing naming conventions. I just want to shake their hand between jerk baits, flogging, bank beating. Like it's
make sure he washes
good.
his hands first.
I'm telling you, it's hard to get through a show to keep it family friendly at times, and we've done a good job. I think we should be commended for some. I mean, this is tough. You try to derail us at times, but I think Rick should. I mean, I think Rick knows. He at one point he put it on me. I was the moral compass of the show, and Kelly's like, they don't really know you that well, and I'm like, I'm on really good behavior, so that's my job.
I mean, it's also how off the rails we tend to be. But no, you're doing great, and I think we should win some type of award for this show and for all the others.
That's for sure. So hey, it's been fun. It was great to get to know Nick. Yeah. What a guy. I mean, he's got a great future in front of him. Hopefully it makes sense. He was rookie of the year before. Now he's a rookie again. Guy's crushing it. He's doing really well, and it's going to be fun to watch.
And next week we have a big, exciting announcement to make. We're going to dedicate the entire show to that announcement. Finally, I might have a couple intelligent things to say.
I might be on a boat fishing Windy Wednesday. We'll see how this all goes down. So
that's right.
So we're trying to figure out days of the week, fishing, catching fish, Monster Bass Power Hour, and then we'll have to figure out a show as well. So looking forward to it.
We're gonna figure it out one way or another. And I bet dollars for donuts that because Rick is not on the show to complain about it, Fix is gonna take us out with a tortilla slap.
Let's do it. All right. See you guys. See you.
Sweep the leg. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.